Today, we are diving deep into the world of tropical beekeeping. We're going to explore what it really takes to work with these incredible insects, and you might just be surprised to find out how important their work truly is.
When you see an image like this, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For most of us, it's honey, right? That sweet golden reward. It's what beekeeping has been about for centuries. But here's a thought. What if the honey isn't even the most valuable thing coming out of that hive? What if there's something else, something way more important going on?
And that question right there really changes how you look at things, doesn't it? It's all about digging past the obvious, past the honey, to see just how massive the bee's impact truly is on our world.
All right, so let's dive into that. Because the value of a single bee colony, wow, it goes so much further than the honey jar in your kitchen. We're talking about medicine, manufacturing, and yeah, pretty much everything you eat. You know, a healthy hive is basically a tiny, buzzing factory. Of course, there's the honey, pure energy. But then you've got beeswax, which is in everything from lipstick to furniture polish. They also bring back pollen, which is packed with protein, and this stuff called propolis, a kind of resin that has some amazing therapeutic uses. But all of that pales in comparison to the last thing on this list, pollination. That, my friends, is the real game changer. Okay, this is where it all clicks. We're not talking about a small helping hand here. Bee pollination is like a massive turbo boost for our farms. Just look at these numbers. An 85% jump in yield for nectarines and peaches, 40% for citrus, 60% for kiwi. This isn't just, oh, we get a little more fruit. This is fundamental to our entire food supply. Seriously, take bees out of the equation and our grocery stores would look completely different. So you gotta ask, how do they pull all this off? To get that, we need to peek inside the hive. Because what you'll find isn't just a jumble of insects. It's more like a single, perfectly organized superorganism.
And here's the cast of characters. You've got 3 distinct types of bees that make the whole thing work. The big one, A, that's the queen. You can spot her by that long abdomen. In the middle, B, that's the drone, kind of stout and broad. And C is the one you see everywhere, the worker bee. Each one of them has a job to do, and believe me, every single job is vital.
Let's start with the queen. She's basically the heart and soul of the colony, literally the mother of every other bee in there. And her output is just mind-blowing. She can lay up to 3,000 eggs in a single day. Think about that. That's more than her own body weight in eggs every single day. And she can keep this up for years, all from a single mating flight early in her life. Incredible. Next up, the workers. This is an all-female army, sometimes 50,000 strong. And their life is just a whirlwind of activity. For about 6 weeks, they do everything. They start as nurses and cleaners inside the hive, then become builders, guards, and for their final chapter, they become the foragers you see out on the flowers. They are, without a doubt, the engine that drives this whole operation.
And that brings us to the drone, the male bee. His life story is pretty straightforward. He has one job and one job only. Find a new queen from another colony and mate with her. That's it. He can't feed himself, he doesn't do any work, he doesn't even have a stinger. And if he actually succeeds in his one mission, well, he dies in the process. It's a short, very specialized, but totally essential life for the good of the species.
Okay, so you've got this perfectly balanced society, but how does one colony turn into 2? How do they reproduce on a colony level? The answer is one of the most amazing things you'll ever see in nature, a swarm.
So swarming is just how bee colonies multiply. It's totally natural. When the hive starts getting a bit too crowded, the original queen decides it's time to move. She takes about half the workers with her, and they all fly off in this giant, buzzing cloud to find a new place to live. And the bees left behind? They just raise a new queen and carry on. And that colony that got left behind? Don't worry about them. They can bounce back incredibly fast. Check out this timeline. A worker bee goes from a tiny egg to a fully formed adult in just 21 days, 3 weeks. So once their new queen starts laying a couple thousand eggs a day, you can see how they can get back to full strength in no time.
All right, so this actually brings us to the fun part, the how-to. How do you start your very first hive? Well, for a lot of beekeepers, it starts with exactly what we were just talking about, catching a swarm.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Capturing a swarm sounds terrifying, but honestly, the process is pretty calm. First, you just gently get the whole cluster of bees into a cardboard box. Later, usually in the evening, you move them into their new permanent home. The absolute key is to make sure the queen is in there. If you've got the queen, all the other bees will follow her right in. Then you just give them a little snack, some sugar water, to help them get started.
Okay, so you've got your bees. Where do you put them? Well, there are basically two schools of thought here. You've got your traditional hives, like hollow logs or clay pots. They're simple, they're natural, but they're kind of a black box. You can't see what's going on inside. Then you have modern hives, and the big innovation here is removable combs. And this is a total game changer. It means you can actually open up the hive, check on the bees' health, and harvest honey without having to destroy their home.
And this picture shows you exactly what I mean. On the left, that's a classic log hive. Super simple, but you have no idea what's happening inside. On the right, that's a modern top bar hive. See all those bars across the top? Each one holds a single comb that you can lift right out. It gives the beekeeper total visibility and a lot more control.
And when you can manage a hive well, that's when you get the good stuff. So let's talk about harvest time.
Now, harvesting honey isn't just a free-for-all. Doing it responsibly is really the key to keeping your bees healthy. There are a few basic rules. You only take honey that the bees have sealed with a wax cap. That's their way of saying it's ready. You never ever take frames that have baby bees or brood in them. And the biggest rule of all, always leave them plenty of food to get through the lean times. You're just skimming the surplus off the top.
So how much honey are we actually talking about? Well, that really depends on where you are, what's flowering, and even the type of bee. As you can see from this chart, the averages are all over the place. You might get 8 kilos from a hive in parts of Africa, but maybe 24 kilos in North America. It just goes to show there are no guarantees in beekeeping, just a whole lot of potential. And hey, let's not forget, it's not all about the honey. Every time you harvest, you also get a bunch of valuable beeswax, and there's a real market for that stuff. It's a great way to make sure that none of the bees' incredible work goes to waste. You know, this quote from one of our main sources really sums it all up beautifully. It says that beekeeping doesn't have to be some big, expensive, complicated thing. If you just use low-cost techniques, you can be successful. It really makes beekeeping something that pretty much anyone, anywhere, can do.
And that kind of brings us full circle, back to the big picture. When you think about everything, their crucial role in pollinating our food, all the resources they create, and the fact that people all over the world can work with them, it really gets you thinking, doesn't it? Could these tiny little creatures really hold one of the keys to our planet's future? It's a pretty powerful thought.